Hi, I'm Gage Peterson, and today I want to go over a few beginner tips and things that I did when I wanted to kind of push myself past those beginner stages. But first off, I want to talk about a few things, a few updates in my life. It's finally snowing. That's a big deal because I want to snowboard really badly. I actually went up and filmed at Bone Zone. It's a group of locals that get together and they use a bunch of rails and like homemade rails to make a little park that they snowboard, and there's like anywhere from 10 to 70 or 80 people up there at a time. It's pretty crazy. I ordered an A7R3, just like I told everyone not to do. The main reason I ordered the A7R3, I don't think I'll have to update my camera system now for 5 years. I don't see much more that I need in a camera. Another camera that I am going to get my hands on, I think it's a Mamiya. It's a medium format film camera, and I think he's giving it to me on Thanksgiving, so that's pretty cool. Let's dive into beginner photography tips. Oh man, I'm just like uncomfortable right now. First off, before you can start taking really good photos with your camera, you have to know how to use your camera. Research your camera, know how to use all the buttons, know what every button is for. Go through your menu, really figure out all the things that you can use and all the things that really just don't matter to you. Go through your manual and learn about it. The nice thing about Sony's is that you set custom buttons. You can really streamline your workflow because when you place a button, you know exactly where it is and you'll remember where that button is. The second thing I'd say is research your basics. Exposure triangle, which is shutter speed, f-stop, and ISO. If you don't know how to use those three things properly, you're not gonna know how to artistically implement them. Knowing those three things is the first thing you really need to be able to do to step up your game from just point and shoot. Some other things you can look up as far as photography basics go. The rule of thirds. Although it isn't a rule, it is nice to get used to using because even if you break the rule, you can still use it to some aspect in almost every photo. It's just kind of how your eye is drawn to certain parts of a rectangle, which is what the shape of a photo is. Leading lines are just lines that are anywhere in a photo that might lead you to the subject or away from it. If you have something leading away from your subject, that's generally not what you want unless you're trying to impose some sort of tension in the photo. As far as subject matter goes, it's always nice to isolate the subject as best as possible. Some of the best photos are of trees in the middle of nowhere. There's no busyness in the photo to distract you. The next thing I'm gonna talk about, or tip number 3, would be to take more photos. And I know that sounds simple, but you need to take a lot of photos to get good at taking photos. I had a teacher in high school, Marianne Hess. She said that even a professional with 20,000 plus hours experience only get one photo out of every 100 that is a keeper. And that's really kind of eye-opening when you first start shooting because you really want to just see something and take a picture of it and have it be good. That's not gonna happen. Even right now, I'm probably down to about 1 out of every 5 or 300. I mean, it depends on how I'm feeling, honestly. When you first start shooting, you might only get one photo out of every 1,000 that are truly remarkable. And this can be potentially crippling to a beginner because you take 999 photos and not a single one of them live up to what you want to be able to produce. And if you don't go out there and take that 1,000th photo, if you don't push yourself to take more photos, you're never gonna get that 1,000th photo. You're not gonna get the 1 in 1,000. In order to take more photos, there are some steps that you can take to kind of make it easier on yourself. The main thing that I would say that I do that helps me take more photos is keep your camera out and ready to shoot. I constantly keep my camera on my drawers right there with a lens, a formatted memory card, and a charged battery. And not only that, I keep it with all of my lenses that I use the most and a flash that is practically 3 steps away from being ready to fire. If you have to go digging through 5 different drawers to set up your camera or even pull it out of your backpack, you're not as likely to actually pull out your camera. When I switched from Canon to Sony, one of the big reasons is because it was such a small system. First lens I bought was a Pancake 20mm f2.8. Let me just... This is the first lens I bought, and as you can see, I mean, the body cap is there, but if you take that away, this thing's really only be about 3/4 of an inch wide, and that's really nice. I'm way more willing to take my camera out to dinner, to go pick up my wife from work. I mean, having such a small setup is really freeing. Another thing that can happen that's kind of frustrating is you find a subject matter is beautiful just to look at. You can see it in your mind being such a great photo, but you go and you take a couple pictures, you go home, it just does not do the subject justice. And the tip that you can pull away from this is take more photos. And that pulls back into the last tip, but really change your composition up as much as you can, because this is how you'll get better photos. I mean, if you shoot 100 photos of that subject matter, even if you only get one, you'll be much happier than shooting 5 and not having any that you're even willing to present to anyone, right? Tip number 17, I don't know what we're at, honestly. Shoot what you like. If you're shooting a subject matter that you don't care an ounce about, you're not gonna get an ounce worth of photos out of it. I like skateboarding and I like snowboarding, so naturally that's kind of what got me more into the film and photography world. I like going to a skate park, but I'm also willing to go there and do a couple tricks and film for 2 hours. It's awesome to be able to show something, show people that don't know what that world is like, a glimpse of what it's like to be in that world. You'll be much more willing to shoot and you'll produce better images simply because you're more willing to push for that better image. One of the biggest tips I have, and it's not one that I've really heard people say, but it's something that helps me push forward, is looking back. Go back a year ago, see how much you've improved. When I was working at Brighton as a portrait photographer, there was this one day, it was so foggy and it was all just at the base of the valley. So when you were looking down from the top of the mountain, you could see all of the other peaks, but you couldn't see the city because it was all just clouds down at the bottom. It was really just stunning. I mean, I took probably 200 photos that day and I hate every single one of them. That was probably 2 or 3 years ago now. First of all, I shot JPEG. That can be a tip that you can pull away from the shoot raw. It'll make you so much happier if you want to go back and edit something. I think I shot at like 1/80th of a second with a 70-200 lens. I was shooting handheld and you can tell. I mean, it's just, they're not very crisp photos, but it is nice to go back and see that, show yourself how much better you've gotten. I mean, if I ever have that chance again, I know I'll be able to produce images miles beyond what the quality of those photos were. Because sometimes it feels like you're just taking photos and 1 out of every 100 happened to be good. But really, when you start learning more about cameras and you have more practical experience in the field, you're gonna produce better images just naturally by practicing. The last thing I'm gonna talk about that can really, really help you get better photos is critiquing. I took a couple college classes, and having your work critiqued is terrifying and horrible and amazing and beautiful at the same time. One of the biggest benefits that come from it is you being scared. And I know that sounds weird, but when you're scared to have people look at your work, you're gonna be way more self-conscious about every little choice you make when you're setting up your camera. It really helps you stop to try and produce the best work possible for every image. And if you know that you're being critiqued on that image in particular by 25 people, it really sets a high standard for yourself. And it's amazing what can happen when you have that much pressure on your shoulders. And the nice thing is too, is you're not disappointing anyone but yourself in this matter. If you're going out and you're shooting for someone and you're charging them, if they have a critique for you, that's pretty bad. But if you're in a classroom setting where you're in a place to learn, which is where you should be if you even care to watch this video, you need to be open to critique and you need to really listen and drive any lessons that can be taken from it into your bones. I think that's all I have to say for today. This is kind of a silly video. Everyone has one of these, but these are the things that helped me push forward. Have a good day. Go shoot. Shoot when you don't want to shoot. I should probably shoot. Yeah. Pull out the camera, press that shutter button, mister.